Hi guys, my name's Daniel, and today I'm gonna start off with a story about something that happened like a week and a half ago. So there's this hike close to where I live, and it's kind of like just the basic hike that everybody goes to. If you grew up in this area, like you've done it, it's always packed. I don't really go there because of that. My other spot is a little more hidden. I kind of get a little bit of alone time, and so anytime I go to this spot, it's whenever I'm with like some friends that don't really hike as much as I do, or like if family comes out of town, like it's a cool spot because like it's technically like a hike and you go up a mountain and everything, but I can do it in like 20-30 minutes, so it's not too bad for them. And so a week and a half ago or so, 2 weeks ago, I was doing it with my mom because we were going to this hike further back that is a little bit longer, but you have to go over this hike to go to the next hike. And as we were going up like the mountain and everything, I was talking to my mom. It was a super nice day out because it basically stopped being winter all of a sudden, and we got an early spring, I guess, and the snow's gone. But so then I look over and there's all the smoke, and I'm like, I wonder what the smoke is. So then I kind of like scurry my way across the mountain as we're climbing up, and I look over this ledge, and all of a sudden there's just this massive ass fire, and I'm like, oh my god. And I realized that it was this cabin. There's this cabin that like you basically go up the mountain. Usually the way I like to go is like I'll go up the mountain, up the like just kind of straight up, and then on the backside you can go down. It usually has more snow because it's like the north face or whatever. And you pass by this like, I don't even think you can call it a cabin. It was more of like a shack. It had like three walls at this point because the fourth one had just like collapsed. It still had a roof, but like the floor was just completely like broken in, and there was just graffiti everywhere and everything. And you would always like pass by this little shack thing that was there since the 50s apparently. And not only had like I seen it every single time I'd done this hike, but so had like everybody I went to high school with, all my friends basically. Like everybody just knew of this little shack. Even going further back, like I would talk to coaches, and he would tell me that like they would throw parties in there and stuff like that when they were in high school in like the early 2000s. Or like my stepdad would knows about that cabin since he's lived here like his entire life, since like the 70s basically. So that thing has been there for over like 50 years at least. And I look over and the entire thing is just on fire, just gone. And I shit you not, it felt like knife to my heart. I was about to fucking fall to my knees and just cry, almost start screaming. But I'm like standing there just like in shock because this thing's going up. My mom obviously doesn't really care because she's just chilling, and so she keeps climbing up. And as she's climbing up, I like look at around, and then I realize that like some teachers from my high school that I graduated were also on that hike, and they were also just kind of standing there in shock that this cabin had gone up in flames. Because somebody, like some kid, high school kid or something, 100% lit that thing on fire because it'd been there for so long. Like it wasn't just gonna be set on fire randomly, you know. And so somebody definitely did that on purpose, like at least like 20 minutes before I got on the hike, because it had just started getting going basically. But so those teachers from my high school that I graduated with, they were standing there, and like I think we were all just kind of in shock. Like I swear to God, it was our 9/11, and it got me thinking about why, like a crappy little shack that I don't even have pictures with. I don't think I've ever taken a single picture in that shack. Every time I would walk by that hike, I would kind of like peek in real quick and then like keep walking, or sometimes I wouldn't even like notice it just because like it was just kind of like a landmark of this hike. But for some reason, the fact that now it's just gone completely, and when I walked down, when we were on our way back from finishing the hike and everything like that, we passed by it, and it's still kind of like smoldering. There were still some embers and everything, but the entire thing was just gone. There was like rebar and some like concrete where they had laid the foundation or something along those lines, but it's literally gone. Like if you had never seen it before, you wouldn't know that it was ever even there. And it got me kind of thinking about that, just like why this crappy little shack kind of bummed me out that it was gone. And it got me just thinking about just life changing, and not just life, just like every facet of it, just people, places. I think in a lot of ways, I've kind of gotten used to some change. Like when I was little, I would move around a lot. Like I was born in Houston, but I don't remember it. Then I lived in Florida, and I do remember that. But then I moved to Colombia, and I have super fond memories of that. And then I moved here to Alaska. And so like my life's always been kind of constantly just kind of changing and everything. But in a lot of ways too, like I've always had constants. Like my grandparents' house is really the closest thing I have to a childhood home. And that thing is quite literally just frozen in time. They got it probably before my mom was born. I think probably like in the 60s or something. And it has not changed a single bit since then. Like my mom's room is still intact from when she was a kid. My brother and I kind of took over my uncle's room when we were living there when we were younger. And really that thing hasn't changed from when it was my uncle's room and he shared it with one of my other uncles. And really the only difference is that like now there's like a few extra pictures on the wall and maybe they like redid the paint, but the entire house is literally just like frozen in time. And anytime I go there, it's almost trippy because I'll go and nothing's changed, but I feel like I've changed a lot. Sometimes even like people have passed. Like I remember when my grandpa passed away, when I was in like middle school. The next time I went, it was just kind of weird being there because like he was just gone and that was it, and the house was still the same. And it just kind of makes me think about just change in life. Like I feel like a lot of times we are kind of like the house. Like we're almost like think of ourselves as this thing that's unchanging, but obviously it's changed a lot. Like it's just not as constant, you know. Like in my life we used to have this big tree and then it got cut down in front of that house and now it's gone, and I've kind of got used to not having it there. But when I was little, like if you told me that the tree was going to be gone, I would have probably been a little bummed out because it was just this massive tree that kind of was almost part of the house to me. In a lot of ways that's kind of the same with like people, right? Like I feel like I haven't changed all that much, or that's a lie. I feel like I've changed a lot in the last 5 years, but it's kind of hard to think about how much you've changed because like it's my life, I am me, so day to day I don't really notice those differences. But like I talked about it in an earlier video about like writing to your future self. Like if I read some of my yearly like letters to myself, or like my journal or something like that, I can kind of be like, oh, this is what I thought back in the day, and like now I kind of think this way. And it's kind of like a weird thought to see all those different versions of yourself existing, and you're not really like aware of that. You just kind of assume like you're kind of stagnant, you're not changing. And it also happens with friends and like just people, you know, your family and everything. I know like one of the big things that kind of sucks as you grow older is like losing friends, and not necessarily because of anything big. Like friendship breakups kind of happen and stuff like that, but sometimes you guys kind of just drift apart, and that's just normal. Like maybe your friendship was founded off of you guys just going to school together and having the same classes or being in the same activities, or maybe even like your friend groups kind of overlapping a little bit, and then when that's kind of gone, like you don't really have a reason to be friends anymore. And sometimes that's just kind of how life is. Like our roads and paths kind of cross over each other, but like sometimes they kind of split up and people aren't really supposed to be in your life, even though that kind of sucks. But I feel like in a way there is like a core to everything. So like for those of you guys that have heard of the ship of Theseus, or those of you guys that haven't heard of it, it's this idea that like, let's say Theseus is this captain and he has a ship and he's going to go on this journey. And as they go on their journey and they land in new ports and stuff happens, like they have to replace parts of the ship, like the mast or the steering wheel and stuff like that. I don't really know what ship parts are called. And as they get to new ports, like they replace crewmates. Like some get sick, some just get off, some die, and they get new ones. And then by the end of the journey, like long journey, the ship of Theseus is made up of all new wood and all new crewmates, and nothing from like the original day of departure is the same? Is it still the ship of Theseus? And in my head, like, I feel like it still is. Like, I don't really think people are like their ideas or like their body or stuff like that, you know. Like, I could lose my arm and I'm still me. I'm just a different version of me. And I think it's kind of the same thing with that ship of Theseus kind of example. Like, it's still the ship of Theseus, and then if you were to take all the old wood and all the old crewmates and recreate the ship of Theseus, would one be the ship of Theseus and one not be? And like, no, it would just be like one is an old version of it and one's the current version of it. And it's kind of the same thing as me right now. Like, if somehow we were able to time travel and bring 12-year-old Danny up from the future and have him talk to me, like, do I stop being Danny because 12-year-old Danny is here? Like, no, it's just different versions. And so all that is to say, kind of like, I feel like a lot of times we kind of get almost anchored to what things were. And I do it a lot, like, especially with like friendships and stuff like that. Like, I think the way I look at it is like, I've had a few friendship breakups. I've had people just kind of come in and out of my life, and that kind of happens. But kind of going back to that ship of Theseus idea, like, even if a friendship has kind of changed, sometimes like it'll end. Like, sometimes maybe, like I said earlier, your interests aren't aligning. Maybe they're not a good friend anymore. Maybe you just kind of drifted naturally. You're in different stages of life. And it kind of sucks. Like, for me, anytime I lose a friend, like a friendship breakup happens or somebody kind of drifts out apart or whatever happens, it feels like somebody literally like punched through my chest and just tore apart my soul and took it with them almost. But also, like, I feel like that core friendship is still kind of there, you know. Like, maybe we're not friends anymore, maybe our paths kind of diverged a little bit and things are different now, but like, you know what, we were boys together. That's what me and my friends say all the time. And it's so real. And that's kind of like that ship with Theseus. Like, that friendship mattered and it existed and it could still be there, and now it's just kind of different. It's not, we're not talking every day, we're not besties, we're not telling each other intimate details of our lives, but like, it's still there in some form. And in my case, like, I feel like every single part of me is from somebody I've known, or like a situationship or a friend. Like, every single one of my mannerisms, every single one of my like little talking stims or whatever I've gotten from somebody else. And I've kind of done the same thing to other people. Like, I'm sure other people kind of pick up stuff that I kind of do or say subconsciously, and now they do or say it subconsciously. And even if we stop talking, like, they'll still kind of carry a piece of me. And sometimes, like I was saying, like, I think things end and that core kind of friendship will still be there. And sometimes you can reconnect later on. And sometimes it'll feel like no time has passed at all. Like, I have a friend who's literally my bestie. I love that guy. Brother from another mother, okay? But his family moved away from Alaska, and in the last 5 years, I've only seen him once last year. And we kind of call each other every now and then. Probably, we should probably call each other a little bit more and everything. But every time we talk, love that guy, okay? It's like no time has passed at all. He actually sent me a super nice message the other day, and I super appreciate him. But like, that friendship is different now. It's not the same as it was before. Like, back in the day, we used to wrestle with each other and stuff, and like, we were kind of almost rivals, you know? And like, we would go to tournaments together, and then we'd go sleep over at his house, and then I would go to church with them and stuff like that. And like, now obviously I can't do that. We're kind of in different spots. But the friendship we have now is almost like built off of what we had back then. And if I were just to close myself off to any change or anything like that and just say like, no, I can't be friends with this guy because I can't sleep over at his house anymore, then we just wouldn't be friends anymore. And that's just kind of lame. Like, I think a lot of times we get scared of change and we close ourselves off, but like, change is all around us. Like, another example I kind of like to talk about is just the idea of like boomers just being scared of kids nowadays. Like, they complain about me, and this is one of my biggest pet peeves. Like, I hate whenever anybody talks about this, but whenever people are like, music isn't like how it was back in the day. Back in the day, it was so much better. Music now sucks and stuff. And it's like, I mean, no, like some of it might suck, but it's just like a preference thing. Like a lot of people will just say that whatever time they happen to be a kid in and had no obligations or responsibilities was the best and most objective time to be a kid, basically. And like, no, it's just a preference. Like, I could sit here and say that 2001 was the best year to be born in because I was born in 2001, and the early 2000s were awesome because I grew up in the 2000s, and Pokemon Platinum is the greatest game of all time because I loved Pokemon Platinum when I was a kid. But that's not true at all. Like, there will be more music. I think that's the thing. Whenever I think about the future, I'm most excited about. I don't really give a shit about like new technology and stuff like that. Because honestly, as AI proceeds, I'm less hopeful for certain parts of technology to be good for us. But you know what? There'll always be good music. Like if you told me 2 years ago that, I don't know, there'd be another Flip Turn album or something like that I'd be listening to on repeat, I would be so fucking pumped. And there will be another Flip Turn album someday. And then if there isn't, then there'll be more music that I'll find and discover and kind of attach memories to. And I think a lot of times people unknowingly become boomers. Like, to me, that's my biggest fear, of just kind of being so afraid of change that I almost kind of stagnate, let my soul, my being rot, because it is just that. Like, people are just afraid of change and things they don't understand. Like, and I understand, because to somebody born like post 2000, it's kind of hard to kind of fathom what the world, like the pre-internet and pre like mass technology was like. But if you think about like our parents or like our grandparents especially, like the world has changed so much. Like when my grandparents were born in like the 40s, and like when they were kids, like nobody had been to the moon. And then the 60s we went to the moon, and then after that we have computers in our hands that are more powerful than what it took to get a person to the moon, you know? And so like a lot has changed in their lives, and it's just kind of weird for them because of that. Also, there's a car passing by, and how dare they interrupt my video making, you know? But it's just like weird to see so much change in such little time. And it even happens with some of my friends. Like, I feel like sometimes when the Skibidi memes first started, like my friends would be like, memes suck nowadays, like they're not like how they were like when we were in high school and stuff. And I'm like, in 2018 we had like the deep fried memes, and that stupid ass like meme with like the, was it Markiplier as like Lord Farquaad from Shrek? I don't even remember. But like, can you genuinely tell me with a straight face that was better than Skibidi? Or like, to me they're at the same level. It's just like, I don't really look at memes like that in that way anymore, you know? And I guess I can understand having nostalgia for it, but it's just fear of change that kind of makes people hate on new things and new ideas and everything. And to me, like, I just want to stay open to that change. But I feel like a lot of times we just fall into routines. This is kind of like a recent thing for me, as of like, I don't know, like a couple hours ago. But when I was younger, like I felt like a super huge insecurity about the fact that I hadn't ever been in a relationship. And I've been on the dating app grind for the last like 2 years. And at a certain point, I feel like I got past that. You just kind of grow out of certain insecurities sometimes. But I'd kind of just formed this routine of like, I'm on dating apps every like 6 months or so. I go on a singular first date or something, then maybe text a little bit, and then I'm like, you know, I'm not really into this person, or they're not into me, and then get back on the dating app treadmill, you know? And I feel like I've kind of fallen into that routine, and I didn't really think about why I even in dating apps in the first place, because like, I'm not into hookups. I want a relationship, but like, why do I even want a relationship? I couldn't tell you. And then today I was thinking about it, and like, it's just like a routine. Like, I'm on dating apps because it's just what I've done the last 2 years. And so I decided that I was just going to delete them because I just need to get off them and not do that. But it's just kind of breaking that routine. And I think a lot of times we fall into our routines where, I don't know, we have the same friend group, we have the same boyfriend or girlfriend, we have the same situationships, or like we're seeing the same people every day. And even if they're starting to kind of wear on us, like maybe they're not the best friends to have, or maybe they're not the best partner to us, like just because it's what I've done for X amount of time, like I'm just gonna keep doing it. And it's not really good for us. But like then the other thing is to just kind of cut them off and everything. And like all that change and all that drama almost is just really scary. But like I've been saying, like I think the best thing is just to always just embrace that change, embrace that fear. Like the only way to do things is to just do them when you're afraid. And who knows, like maybe in the future, like things might be different. It's never going to be the same. Like I always think of that one quote from Berserk. I forget how it goes exactly. It's like, even if we painstakingly piece together something that was lost, it doesn't mean that it'll be the same as it was, or something along those lines. And like, yeah, like like I said with my friend earlier, like maybe I can't like sleep over at his house and after a wrestling tournament and then go to church the next day because he doesn't live here and we're not wrestling anymore, you know. But maybe like we can be besties, brothers from another mother's now, even if we live in different states and keep talking. And it's the same thing with like, I don't know, exes and stuff like that, or like even friendships that might have ended. And it's kind of like a game that you got to play. Like if things didn't end badly and it's something that just kind of ended, it's one thing. Like maybe later on, once you guys have become different people, you can use the foundation of like your old friendship and or relationship or whatever it is to kind of reach out and reconnect, kind of see who they are now, who you are in the context of knowing them now is like. But if somebody kind of screwed you over, or like if it ended really badly, or if they're not going to be helpful to you, then just get a grip. Honestly, get a fucking grip. Because it even happens with me. Like I had a I don't really want to talk about it too much because like who cares, and it was a while ago. But I had a friendship breakup that literally it did feel like soul torn apart. Okay, literally my eclipse in a way, in some ways, one might say. But every now and then I'll be like, I'll see this person's TikToks, or I'll see something random pop up or something. I'm like, damn, I should text this person and be friends with them again. But then I'm like, no, get a grip, okay? Like I don't wish them any ill will or anything like that, but things are different. They're actually like a complete stranger now, and I don't know them at all. And maybe there is that like bond that we had, that friendship, but like that's in the past. Now is the time for new things in the present, and instead of worrying about like what used to be. So in those cases, like you got to do your own kind of figuring out like what's best for you and everything like that. In other cases, like I'm going to Japan with my brother, and I've had this friend that I've known my entire life. Like our grandparents were best friends, my mom and her mom were best friends, and like we grew up semi together. Like she was kind of in Colombia for part of the time I lived there, and then we used to like we used to play Club Penguin with each other a lot, and we would Skype. And honestly, I think that helped me a lot when I was little, because like when I moved here, I didn't speak any English, and I was probably pretty lonely in third grade, not being able to speak English with anybody. But so I would play Club Penguin with her, but I straight up haven't talked to her in like 10 years. Like I think we were talking about it, and like the last time I saw her was like 2015 or something. And so I'm going to Japan with my brother, and we happen to just coincide and have our trips line up with her and her partners. And I'm pretty excited about that, because like I said, like I haven't seen her. Like I think the last time I saw her was, we were both in Colombia at the same time in like 2015. So it's almost been like 10 years. And we've been kind of planning our trips and everything, kind of staying a little bit of contact just so like some of it overlaps and we can like see each other. And the other night I called her just to talk about the trip and just say hi and everything. And it was the same thing with like my other friend that I used to wrestle with, who's my bestie and everything. And it just felt like no time had passed. And it was even weirder with her because like I said, it's been 10 years, but we just have like this bond that goes back to our childhood and everything. And it was kind of nice. And in some cases, that's how those like reaching out to people will be. In other cases, it might just kind of be like, oh, things have definitely changed. Like maybe it's not gonna be harmful to me for me to reach out to this person, but like once I do, I realize that like, oh, like they were supposed to be in my life back in that moment, like a couple of years ago or whenever it was, but now with the current me and the current them, it's not really the same, and it's not really like a negative thing, but maybe it is best to just kind of move along. Like you catch up real quick and that's it, you know? And I guess all of that was just to say that like this cabin that basically was my 9/11 a week and a half ago made me think about all this and how life is just constantly moving and we're all just changing, but at the same time we're kind of retaining a core to ourselves. It's almost like it's like that stupid ass thing from Shrek where like ogres have layers like onions or whatever. Like I am a Russian nesting doll of all the versions of myself. Like I have like me at 1, me at 2, me at 3, so on and so forth until you get to the current me. And I might be different now, but there's some core part of me that still remains, and I'm still Danny. And I don't think that like a cabin burning down, or I guess shack burning down at that mountain makes it not be the mountain anymore. Like, you know, like it'll be a fond memory for a lot of people that grew up in the area to look back on, but I guess now it's gone and now it's just a memory. So even if it hurts or whatever, especially when it comes to like friendships or childhood homes or whatever it is, whatever kind of change it is, you kind of grieve it, you kind of do your thing, but then you just have to be open to change because that core part of who it was or what it did still ripples out and affects a lot of people. And if you just start closing yourself off like a boomer, then you're just going to be bitter and not get to enjoy music. Like imagine this is it. Like all the music you like now is the only music you'll ever like for the next 50, 60 years or whatever you have left in your life. Like that's so lame to me because I love the music I listen to now and I'm sure I'll listen to it in 50, 60 years, but I don't want this to be it, and I don't want to just stagnate and literally just start rotting out my brain based on the fact that, I don't know, kids like Skibidi Toilet now or or whatever the fuck they'll like in a year or two, you know? So that's about it for now. I want you guys to just leave your comments on what your thoughts on change are. Maybe something that has changed significantly or kind of over time in your lives recently. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to subscribe and like. So thank you.